folks. This is now America first.
The president was in Ohio for an economic roundtable.
The wall we have to build. How about the wall where everyone scales the wall?
Yet another district judge rejects what the Mueller team is trying to do.
This is a witch hunt. Attorney General Sessions should step up and dismiss his entire investigation.
Folks that brought forth a bill that said voluntarily schools could post "In God We Trust" in the school. Well, that triggered a debate on the Minnesota State Senate floor.
Instead of the word God, the word Allah welcomes students to their school.
I don't want that motto on our money. I don't want it in our public schools.
We are banning Kanye West music from this radio station.
Challenge yourself to consider if they banned Taylor Swift's music because she supports Obama. They would be calling it racist because it is racist.
Pete is number 8, Ed is number 4.
Oh, come on!
Right now, Ed is slightly in the lead. Ed is...
Come on!
You gotta kiss it. You know what I mean? There you go.
I love them. They're great.
Who doesn't?
I know. I grew up on them.
Guys, we're already having way too much fun on the
Yeah.
show, and it's only
Big Macs.
7 in the morning. We just talked to the guy that has had over 30,000
Yeah, you know,
Big Macs.
Dave, can you bring me another Big Mac?
You've had 2 already.
I've had 1.5, but in honor of this guy, he had 2 a day since 1972. And as you said, Ed, he lost 5 pounds.
Yeah, we had to get to break. So he told us off the air that he weighed 195 pounds when he started 30 years ago. And he just weighed himself and he's 190 pounds. So is the lesson, after 30,000 Big Macs, you lose 5 pounds?
No, but he's not getting the right
sure
nutrition. It's the one battle I think Pete could beat you in is an eating contest.
Well,
all the food
he
groups
needs
in there.
something. He's on his second Big Mac already. And he's still in great shape, but he can't win. I don't know what it is.
It's the Adam Klotz curse. It really is.
We are getting a lot of reaction from you about what the next competition is going to be between us. It might be a Big Mac eating contest. We're going to get to that later this hour. There's a lot of news we want to get to first, though.
Another judge has now rejected a Mueller move. So you remember those 3 Russian companies and the 13 Russian individuals were charged for
Intervening in the 2016 election.
Intervening in the 2016 election using their social media. So now you have one of those companies, because a lot of people thought that nothing would come of it because they're Russian companies, they're Russians, they're not actually going to follow
Couldn't
through.
compel them to come to America and actually face
So
the
they
charges.
actually did their research, as you were saying earlier, Pete.
Yeah, they hired a couple of lawyers and said, okay, we're going to challenge you, Bob Mueller. And they said, well, part of that challenge means we get discovery on what you're doing and the scope of what you're investigating. Of course, the other judge we talked about yesterday, T.S. Ellis, who also wants to see this scope memo. Hey, Bob Mueller, how broad and wide is your investigation? And it calls into question whether or not it's gone way too far. So you've got maybe some checks and balances here, which would be nice to see. You don't necessarily love it that it's Russian companies and judges doing it, but this is a Trump-appointed
They're pushing
judge.
back. They're saying they need more evidence, similar to what we heard from the judge in Alexandria, Virginia.
T.S. Ellis, a couple days ago, the federal judge in Virginia, was saying, look, why are you going after Paul Manafort? If you committed crimes, that's wrong. That's right. We should find out. But why, in an investigation about the 2016 election, are you going back to 2005 with bank and wire fraud? That federal judge said it's clear to him that this is not about Manafort. It's about trying to flip him to get to President Trump. And Robert Charles, he was the former Assistant Secretary of State under President George W. Bush. He weighed in last hour. Watch.
There is a request presently pending that Mr. Rosenstein has not honored, and that is a request for the full scope memo that would allow the American people and the United States Congress to understand what this investigation actually was allowed to do. The remarkable part, honestly, is that this inquiry, which Congress has made, has been rebutted by the Deputy Attorney General, who says he's being extorted by Congress. I think you have to ask yourself at some point, what's the right thing to do instead of what's the politically right thing to do?
Well, one of those Republican members of Congress is Devin Nunes, who's been demanding more and more information from Rod Rosenstein, as well as other officials of the Justice Department, FBI. He's going to be a live guest here next hour, weighing in on all of this. But clearly, this is starting to really come to a boil now about what is the scope of this investigation. It started with allegations of Russian collusion in the 2016 election and seems to be morphing in a lot of
And now it's taken on so many legs. you were saying you cast such a wide net out there, you can pretty much catch anybody on anything. So people are now questioning with Paul Manafort, for example. You're charging him for tax fraud and bank fraud from years ago, and this judge is saying, what does that have to do with Russian collusion? So Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former mayor, who is now working with Team Trump as a lawyer, he said he understands now, or has a reason why this judge is looking specifically at Paul Manafort. Here's what he said last night.
We've not been able to get that from them either. And of course, they developed that whole Cohen investigation and gave it away. And I think the judge was rightfully confused about why did they give away Cohen but not Manafort. So I don't know, maybe they think Manafort's somebody they can flip faster. The fact is, this all plays into what my client, the President of the United States, has been saying for quite some time. The judge, in sum and substance, said this is a witch hunt with a tremendous amount of government misconduct attached to it. And you're quite correct. Attorney General Sessions should step up and dismiss this entire investigation.
So, Abby, to your point, it starts somewhere, and then it can wind and weave until they can charge almost anybody of anything. Think about this scope memo. So we've heard about the dossier. We know of the famous dossier. We know of the Comey memos.
We know that it was now funded by Democrats.
We do. We know the Comey memos. You've got different investigations. Pay attention to this scope memo, because what it shows you is what the rules are that Rod Rosenstein has given Bob Mueller to actually investigate. And Bob Mueller's supposed to stay inside those 20-yard lines. And there's no reason to go outside of it. And if so, then Rod Rosenstein should pull it back in and say, stay focused on so-called Russian collusion. That was your charge.
Well, guess what?
Are they there? I don't think they are.
Well, and he has not wanted to turn this over to Congress, as we heard a moment ago. They've been fighting that tooth and nail. You wonder why, because what's in the memo number one?
Why would the scope memo, this is an honest question, why would a scope memo be classified? Why couldn't...
Well, there could be information that the intelligence community and the FBI had and has about Russian efforts to influence the election that could be classified. That'd be one reason.
But don't the American people deserve to know? To know what is being investigated on their behalf?
So
that's what Congress has been shouting from the rooftops for months now. Yeah. Interesting what Rudy Giuliani, though, said about Jeff Sessions being able to end this whole thing. Can he do that? Because Jeff Sessions has recused himself from this Russian investigation.
I can't see him stepping in at this point. It would be Rod Rosenstein, and he's not going to end the investigation, or he would have done that a while ago. Here's my broader point, though. The federal judge, T.S. Ellis, said, I want that scope memo that you haven't given to Congress. Right. I want it in the next 12 days. So will Rod Rosenstein now defy a federal judge and say, I'm not turning this memo over? That's the real battle.
He says, give me that memo, and then I will be the judge of this.
As he should be.
Literally.
So this judge, T.S. Ellis, he could continue to be a really big player in this entire investigation.
And pay attention to this scope memo. We've heard about different memos. I get confused about the different memos and dossiers and investigations. This is a big one because it gives us a sense of what they should be looking at or not. And that's what Rudy Giuliani and a lot of people are talking about. Stay inside the lane. We didn't collude. We didn't obstruct. If that's what you're focused on, get it done.
Don't forget the other big development.
Don't go chasing after everything else.
Friday night, 2 top FBI officials out, resigned.
It's true.
Those are some of the folks, the investigators in all of this, who have been under question. That's happening as well. Another big issue, of course, is the economy and the tax cuts and how that's going to play in the midterm.
But this is why people are so frustrated, because there's been so much focus on this Russia investigation that there are all these other issues, including the economy and tax reform and other things that impact their lives every single day. I hear this from my family and friends all the time of, we turn on the news and we don't hear anything that impacts us, things that we really care about.
Democrats in the House and Senate voted against it, by the way.
That's all of them did. So the president is left on his own to tout his successes because no one else will do that. He was in Cleveland, Ohio yesterday talking about jobs and the economy. Charlene Thornton took the stage, had written a letter to the White House about the benefits she got from tax cuts and tax reform. Here's what she said about how those tax cuts helped her. Listen.
My husband, Kevin, he worked in a steel mill, and it closed down in 2012 due to the company going bankrupt. He spent the next 1.5 years retraining and then at the same time searching for a job. The first year of it, I then became legally blind and could no longer work. He found a job January of 2014. Because of the tax cut and the job plan, they're taking out a lot less taxes, $200 to $300 less taxes than what they did before the plan. It really is working.
Interesting, because I had a Democratic strategist on yesterday morning, you remember, and I said, can you give the president just a little bit of credit?
Times.
I'll give you one more chance. And he wouldn't do it. And he kept saying, this is not helping real people. And I'm not the judge and arbiter. You, the viewer, everybody out there across the country, you're the arbiter. You're going to vote in these midterms. Is it helping you or not? And that woman steps up and says, my husband was out of work. He finally got a job in 2014, before Donald Trump was in office, when Barack Obama was in office. But now his paycheck is fatter because of Donald Trump. This is a real person.
Yes, it's a great point. So while D.C. runs around and talks about Russia,
it's Charlene Thornton. Those stories that we need to hear more from.
That's the big point. That's what will matter.
All right, we've got a lot of other news coming to our newsroom this morning. I want to bring you those headlines now. And on a serious note, a Fox News alert right now. The FBI investigating a deadly ISIS threat right here on American soil. Disturbing tweets from an alleged student at Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, forcing authorities to do an intense search overnight. And one of those tweets is a link to an alarming letter reading this in part. I have set up several pipe bombs, pressure cookers, and nail bombs around the campus and plan to inflict the utmost damage possible. And then this tweet showing guns laid out with this message. Allah has graced us with these weapons of destruction to carry out his needs. No harmful materials were found, but the school does remain on high alert. And an Indiana police officer killed in the line of duty has now been identified as the community mourns his loss. Patrolman Rob Pitts, a 16-year veteran of the Terre Haute Police Department, was killed on Friday night after a confrontation with a homicide suspect. Fellow officers honoring his bravery.
People are engaging with law enforcement, and we are losing our lives. But he's a fine officer who is going towards danger.
Officer Pitts will be laid to rest on Wednesday. And all eyes are on 4 states this week with primaries that could give us a better look at how the midterm election will pan out. Voters in Indiana, West Virginia, Ohio, and North Carolina will pick candidates for Congress on Tuesday. Republicans trying to hold control of the House and the Senate. They have a 42-seat lead in the House and a 2-seat lead in the Senate. Watch that closely. And Justify makes history at the 144th Kentucky Derby.
He's just awesome! Justify has won the Kentucky Derby! It was very close for a second.
The 3-year-old winning the wettest Kentucky Derby on record, the first colt in 136 years to wear the roses after not racing as a 2-year-old. Justify will now enter the Preakness Stakes, the next leg on the road to the Triple Crown. It is the 2nd year in a row Janistine has been on good luck charm. She got tips from the winning jockey Mike Smith on Friday. And last year, she spoke to the owners of the Derby winner always dreaming before race day. We need to keep sending her those.
Well, there you go. You want to win? You talk to Janice.
Pete, how did your horse do?
Clear lesson. Combatant was 71-1, and now I know why.
He's on a losing streak. And by the way,
continues to be.
Nice job reading the headlines while Pete was having another Big Mac.
And you were taking a picture, too.
I just posted on
These guys distract me all the time through
I'm
the
taking
headlines.
a picture of you reading the headlines and him eating a Big Mac. And you did it flawlessly. So.
How do you feel, Pete? Are you nauseous?
I'm a little full. I'm going on 2.
All right.
This guy ate 2 every day.
Meanwhile, a new report claims John Kerry is involved in shadow diplomacy, trying to save the Iran deal he helped create. Is he, though, colluding with the biggest state sponsors of terror? Dr. Sebastian Gorka, he's furious about this. I bet he's going to weigh in next.
And liberal filmmaker Michael Moore is wishing a very special and happy birthday to communist Karl Marx, his good buddy. They agree on a lot. That doesn't surprise me.
I'm gonna put you in your place.
The President instructed Mike Flynn to undertake this conversation with the ambassador. If that is true, then not only would Mike Flynn be violating the Logan Act, but so would President Trump.
Leave it to the Trump administration to bring out the Logan Act.
Well, Democrats up in arms when accusing Mike Flynn of violating the Logan Act during the transition for his contact with Russia.
So where is the outrage now over John Kerry as a new report claims he's secretly trying to save his Iran deal?
And here to react, live Fox News national security strategist, former deputy assistant to President Trump, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Ed.
So
Good morning, guys.
What say you? I mean, you know better than anyone that General Flynn was tarred and feathered during the transition, even before what happened with the Bob Mueller investigation. He's violating this law. He's violating the Logan Act by talking to the Russians. Now John Kerry is talking to the Iranians, and not a peep from Democrats.
Well, look, Ed, I worked for General Flynn in transition. That is a position that is not congressionally confirmed, the National Security Advisor. He was doing his job the second that we won the election, and rightfully so. Any charges against him that he's not allowed to do that are bogus. I just want to know now, after this report came out about Kerry colluding, this is collusion, this is real collusion. I want to know, when are FBI agents with guns drawn going to raid his house on Nantucket, in Boston, in Georgetown, because this is the largest state sponsor of terrorism. It still is. Iran is the largest state sponsor. And this man, without any official title, with no mandate, he's not in a transition team. He doesn't work for the U.S. government. He's meeting with the Iranian foreign minister to save this outrageously bad deal. I want to see the prosecution for this occur.
Do you think that this will have any impact on how the president's thinking about what he's going to do? I mean, I know your answer there, but this is coming in just a matter of days. May 12th is the deadline.
Right.
Where is the president's head at when it comes to the Iran deal? He's made a point time and time again saying that he's furious about the deal. What can we expect?
Look, he wanted to kill the deal when I was inside the Oval Office. We've discussed this matter since I left. He's always wanted to kill it because it's bad. It's bad for America. It's bad for our friends. It's bad for Israel. It's bad for global security. He wants to have the right glide path off the deal. But as far as I'm concerned, especially after Prime Minister Netanyahu's incredible briefing he gave a week ago, the deal is dead.
What's the alternative, though? What is the alternative to, if you don't have an Iran deal, then you have to deal with a nuclear Iran, or you say you're going to have to be willing to go to war with Iran, right? Is there a better alternative? A lot of people are asking.
I think that's the false dichotomy of the left, where they say, oh, well, you've got to have this deal or it's war. Really? Let's have a look at North Korea. What has the left been telling us for a year and a half now? That Donald Trump's going to take us to nuclear war. Is that how it looks right now in North Korea?
No, of course not. I mean, it was the threat of war, the belief that war would be waged, that brought the North Koreans to the table.
Right.
Now, one could argue the Iranians are more radically driven by an ideology, but are there also not some things worth going to war for in order to prevent, say, the worst sponsor of terrorism from getting a bomb?
You are one of the few people who's allowed to ask that question and answer it as a veteran, as a man who's worn the cloth of the Republic in a battlefield. Look, at the end of the day, America is back under Donald Trump. We've sent a very clear message to all these nations, and I am very happy when there are sleepless nights in Tehran.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Gorka, we'll be checking with Rod Rosenstein to see whether he's headed to Nantucket or not. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Well, one of the strictest abortion bans in the country signed into law in the state of Iowa, the heartbeat bill banning abortions after 6 weeks. Is this what the rest of the country wants? We're going to ask one of the state lawmakers who sponsored that bill.
Well, welcome back. Time now for your news by the numbers. First, 74. That's how many people have been shot in Chicago since Monday. Of those, 5 were deadly. In 2016 and 2017, Chicago had, unfortunately, more than 1,400 homicides. Next, 1,600. That's how many people were arrested during anti-Putin protests in Russia. 1,600 folks. Among them, Alexei Navalny, who ran against the Russian president in this past election. Putin, who won with an overwhelming number of the votes, shockingly, will be inaugurated tomorrow. And finally, $143 million. That's how much a winning Mega Millions ticket sold in Ohio is worth. The jackpot winner has 180 days to claim their prize. The rest of the country hopes he or she doesn't claim it, of course. The lump sum option is worth about $86 million after taxes. Abby, over to you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, well, the nation's strictest abortion ban is now law. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signing that measure on Friday. The legislation known as the Heartbeat Bill bans most abortions if a fetal heartbeat can be detected. So here with more is Iowa State Senator Rick Bertrand. He voted in support of that bill. Senator, thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me this morning, Abby. Appreciate it.
You know, this is one of the most controversial issues that we debate in this country. So looking at recent polls and survey done on just how the country's feeling about abortion, there's a recent Pew survey, and it shows that 57% of the country supports legal abortion. That's compared to 40% who support illegal. So the question off the top is this bill the strictest bill on abortion? Is this what the American people are wanting?
You know, I do. And I think the bigger thing right now from the ground up is what Iowans want. If you look at polling here in Iowa, there's definitely a shift, I believe, just in the state, but in the nation, we're over 60%. And I think it was a great day in Iowa on Wednesday. I was proud of our governor for stepping up and owning this bill. And I think there was a lot of determination, a lot of good people put a lot of thought into this. And again, life is on the march.
All right, so it bans abortions upon fetal heartbeat detection, exceptions for rape and medical emergency, more restrictive policies, I said, than anywhere else in the country. Just a question for you for women, because I've just had a child, and a lot of women, including myself, don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks along. So help explain what this law would mean for those women who find out, let's say, at 8, 9, 10 weeks, and they realize that there's a health problem with either the child or the mother.
Well, the first thing I think we need to realize is that this bill was put in place really to challenge the Supreme Court. I think that's what it is. And there's a lot of us in the pro-life movement that understand that life at conception is where life begins. And really to force this back to the Supreme Court, we need that type of legislation in the pipeline. So really what you saw with this, Abby, this bill being a heartbeat bill at the 6 weeks is kind of a de facto default to a life at conception bill, which again was the very transparent and clear goal here in Iowa, is we wanted to really put this back into the court system and to kind of reload for the life movement. As we now see with the Republican president, Trump's a game changer in the things that are happening in the Supreme Court, with Justice Kennedy signaling that he is going to retire. And who knows, not being morbid or anything, but with Justice Ginsburg is 85 years old. We don't know the future of her in the next 3 years. So the court is shifting. And I believe, Abby, that we as Republican legislatures need to put more of these bills into the system. So when this court is ready to move, they're going to have opportunities to move on this issue.
So you could say this is for the Supreme Court, and I believe you that you feel it is. But what about women who say our lives are on the line? We may not find out till later on that something does need to be done in order for us to stay alive. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, and again, those exceptions were put in place, and this is not a new debate. And again, I think to get this bill past the finish line here in Iowa, to really put it into the courts, we knew we were going to have to make some concessions when it came to life, incest, any type of non-sustaining life abnormalities out of the outside of the womb. So again, we took these things into consideration, but we're not in any illusion here. We know that this will be challenged by the courts. We know that July 1st, when this goes into law, that the courts are going to step into this. And again, so that's really what's the goal of this. We know this. Other states are beginning to become more aggressive with this. I know South Carolina is loading back up in Ohio. So you're going to see, I think, other states really start to get aggressive with this type of legislation, because the time is now. The country is shifting. And I think that the life movement, this is where the life movement is going, and it's just the next step.
Well, you know, not every group in the state of Iowa is happy about this new bill. You can expect challenges from Planned Parenthood, for example, from the ACLU there in the state of Iowa. Are you guys plan to combat those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same players. There's nothing new here. And again, I think people keep asking what's different between now and like 2013 when these bills were tried in other states. And again, I go back to, again, the mood of the country, number one. Science has caught up with Roe versus Wade. You know, we can now determine when life begins in the womb. And again, the Donald Trump, and he has proven that he is a conservative. He's a pro-life conservative. And I think that the court in the next few years is going to make a shift to the right. We are reloaded for another challenge. And I think a bill like this is, again, a great day in the life movement.
All right, we will see where this goes. Senator Bertrand, thanks for joining us this morning. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks, Abby. You bet.
All right, coming up, should our national motto, "In God We Trust," be allowed to be displayed in schools? That debate now raging in one state.
I'm wondering if Senator Hall would feel the same if students walked in and instead of the word God, the word Allah.
I don't want that motto on our money. I don't want it in our public schools.
The lawmaker pushing for the plan joins us to respond. Plus, George Washington University students petitioning their colonial nickname, claiming it is offensive. And if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear what they think about being named after our first president. Oh, that's coming up, and much more on Fox and Friends Sunday. Stick with us.
Backsies, no backsies.
Ready, go!
That's a big one for me. That's faster.
So Pete is number 8, Ed is number 4.
Oh, come on.
Right.
I need it faster.
Okay, so I didn't think my victory could be any sweeter until I came in this morning and saw that video for the first time because I was on the other side. Obviously, I didn't see you.
You see, I rolled and I backed away. I'm like, it's in.
He celebrated like he won, and he mixed up the numbers of our horses. He thought his horse won. And then he was like dejected, sad.
It's getting to the point where I actually am feeling sorry for you.
America should feel sorry for
I feel sorry, too. So
I don't want a pity party, though. I really don't. I'm going to get back up. We're going to get after it.
What do you get for the guy who has everything but a victory, right?
Look at that shiny trophy.
MAGA, baby. I went to Times Square, a $45 bill with Donald J. Trump on it. I figured there's nothing you love more than the
my
president.
consolation prize.
That's your participation trophy.
Count me a loser. Look at this beauty. I don't know if we can get in on this thing.
Yeah, it's a 45.
This is real money. Okay, on the back it says repeal Obamacare, strong military, build the wall, honor the vets, drain the swamp.
See the vets.
You're
it's
just
about you.
feeding it.
R.I.P. ISIS.
Look at that.
I mean, look at that bad dog.
I love it.
Ed, thank you very
should
much.
frame it, Pete.
Well, this is staying in my wallet.
So you've
All
been
right.
reacting.
Yeah, so we asked this morning, what should the next battle be between these two? Is there anything that Pete Hegseth could possibly win? And you've been emailing us your thoughts, and keep sending them, by the way, friends at foxnews.com. So this comes in from Joe, says Ed has won way too many times, and we need Pete to win something. I suggest an obstacle course. Anything else, Ed will just continue
He will make
winning.
the Army proud. Email from David. Pete, maybe you can beat Ed Henry in a hot dog eating contest.
I love it. Let's do it.
Dog.
All right, I'll eat one. Hot dog is my favorite meat, Abby.
Should we
To quote
invite Mitt
Mitt
to
Romney.
join, too?
That's right, yeah. How about this one? He said Pete should race Ed in a foot race.
He will smoke him.
He will smoke him.
All right.
Just a straight up sprint.
I'll take that challenge. Everyone thinks he can beat me.
Active, they think Ed will lose.
Everyone's, he's in better shape. Well, you know what? This guy, Chuck Cole, tweets, eating contest, go Pete or tap out, man. Don't be like Hillary, admit defeat, LOL.
Nora, I don't want to be in an excuses tour the whole time. Listen, I've just lost. Ed's beat me.
Pete, what happened?
It's time to win.
What happened?
What happened?
Well,
Everything
it
happened.
continues on.
The Russians.
All right, I'm going to bring you some other headlines that we are following closely. Guys, keep it together, all right? Officials are now warning it is a grave mistake if people choose to stay on Hawaii's Big Island. Several vents opening up, spewing lava and deadly gases into the air of residential neighborhoods 2 days after an eruption of the Kilauea volcano. At least 5 homes now have been destroyed. Scientists warn that the quakes and lava flows could continue for weeks. Also, President Trump may address British Parliament when he flies to London this summer. Members of the House of Lords are reportedly looking to nix their anti-Trump speaker in the House of Commons, who banned President Trump to speak. The speaker opposing an address last year in protest of President Trump's travel ban. A working meeting with Prime Minister Theresa May is set for July 13th. The two spoke this weekend on issues facing both countries, including the Iran nuclear deal. And Trump-hating filmmaker Michael Moore is at it again, this time bowing down to communism creator Karl Marx. Moore tweeting this yesterday. Happy 200th birthday, Karl Marx. We believe that everyone should have a seat at the table and that the greed of the rich would eventually bring us all down. You believe that everyone deserves a slice of the pie. You knew that the super wealthy were out to grab whatever they could. Moore going on to compare Marx to Jesus Christ and calling capitalism cruel.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Wow.
A lot in that tweet. We are now seeing the first official photos of Britain's newest prince. Take a look at Prince Louis sharing a sweet moment cuddled by his big sister, Princess Charlotte, on her 3rd birthday. The royal children photographed by their mom, Kate. Missing from the photo is big brother, Prince George. Louis is 5th in line for the throne. And that's the best place to be because you can just kind of chill out.
Yeah, you wait a while.
Pressure.
Absolutely.
Like
No
Prince
pressure
Harry.
at all.
Yeah.
All right, Adam Klotz kind of started the slide for Pete with the Klotz curse. He beat him with the push-ups. Now he's got the weather. Good
I'm
to see you, Adam.
surrounded by
Adam.
foes.
Yeah, guys, warming up in a big way in the middle of the country today. Heating up just like these challenges have been. Temperatures running up into the middle 80s there in the middle of the country. But really pay attention to what's happening in the desert Southwest. These temperatures triple digits before the day is over. We've got heat warnings stretching from major cities like Phoenix, Arizona, back down to Yuma. These spots 100 to 105 degrees before the day is over. Those are your daytime highs. 106 in the Phoenix area. Some spots getting up as high as 107 for the rest of the country, especially the western half of the country. All these really warm areas. It's going to be dry. Rain moving across portions of the East Coast. Good idea to have the umbrella if you're going to be in those spots. rain, sweets. Guys, what do we have here? We got some candy. I'm heading this
Way
direction.
too much candy.
Come on
So
over.
today is National No Diet Day. Did you know that?
Did you know? I didn't even know it was a day. It's one of my favorite days. Should be your favorite days. No diet days.
And
It should be every day, actually.
In celebration, we've already had Big Macs. Now we're ready to ditch the diet for real with some candy.
Here to satisfy our tooth is Kelly the Candyman Jamie from the Sweet Shop. Jamie, great to have you with us.
Nice to be here. Nice to be
This
here.
looks amazing.
Well, we got a little bit of everything for everybody, I think.
So, what does the Candyman like the most?
Well,
And what's your special here?
probably my favorite thing is the ice cream and the Silkies.
Those are always good. But I notice you have these Band-Aids that are kind of fun.
Yeah. They
So,
come in chocolate.
Kids will love that.
Oh, you know the Band-Aids, Ed. I grew up on these.
Yeah, those are awesome.
I've never had a gummy aid.
Yeah.
And with us being so close to the hospital, we get a lot of the doctors and the pediatricians that will get
for
these.
kids.
So this is what is all sold at the Sweet Shop.
This is just a good cross-section, yeah.
So when kids come in, what do they grab?
Sour stuff, like sour
I do
gummy
love a
bears
good
and
sour worm.
sour worms. They also love the Pop Rock still.
Pete, what pops out at you first?
I love gummy bears. I've always loved gummy worms, sour gummies.
Right,
They're the
right.
best. When I was overseas, I would ask for the gummies to get shipped to me, and they would all melt into a giant gummy ball.
It's made it amazing.
Gummy ball.
What's the top seller these days?
Right now, it's ice cream, cookies.
Oh.
And
People
we
are
have
going past the candy, going past the Milk Duds, and getting the big ones.
Yeah.
My favorite is a dark chocolate-covered pretzel.
Well, let's make
the
sure you
salt
get
and the
one.
sweet. I mean, how can you go wrong?
Now, do people still buy these and go to the movie theater? That's what I did as a kid. Now you're watching Netflix or you're doing something at home. Do they still buy candy and bring it home for
Even with Upper East Side prices, they still will come to us before going to their movie house. A lot of what I've noticed over the last 5 years when we opened the store is people are going away more from the packaged stuff to the handmade and artisan-made
More
stuff.
Make your own bag of stuff.
Exactly.
Kelly, this is awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
for
most
making
welcome.
our
Where is it
day.
located in New York?
We're on 73rd Street between 1st and New York Avenues right here in the beautiful city of New York.
All right, it is beautiful.
Wonderful.
Go check them
All
out.
right, go get some candy for
Thank you very
National No Diet Day.
Love it. We
You
got
got
more
it.
for National No Diet Day as well. More cheeseburgers, I've heard. So I'm told. Stick around. All right, George Washington University students petitioning to change their colonial nickname because they think it's too offensive. So do they think the name of the first president should also go? Listen.
It's not to say that he wasn't an important man back then. It's just saying that in this day and age, it's not as important, I don't think.
Well, the filmmaker behind that video here with what else he found next.
And Candace Owens, Congressman Devin Nunes, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, and Maria Bartiromo. All here, all live, all exclusive, coming up.
I'm making myself a candy.
Government officials to cover their tracks. The new self-destruct feature lets users erase emails they've already sent. Activists fear that government employees will abuse the feature and delete public records, which would obviously violate freedom of information laws. And he makes electric cars, rockets, even flamethrowers. Now, Tesla CEO Elon Musk says he wants to make sweets, like candy, I guess. Tweeting, quote, "I'm starting a candy company, and it's going to be amazing." The announcement appears to be in response to Warren Buffett, who said Musk wouldn't want to take him on in the candy business. Buffett owns the chocolate company See's Candies. Perfect with our last
Candy
segment.
We'll see, indeed. All right, well, students at George Washington University, they are petitioning to change their colonial's nickname, claiming it's offensive, and preferring a name like the Hippos
What?
instead.
Well, filmmaker Ame Horowitz visited the campus asking students if the school should even keep the name of our first president. Watch how that went.
Do you change the name? If you could do it?
Yeah, sure.
That was 1776, it's 2018, and I think it's important that we realize and reupholster the systems that built us.
Sure, I think we should change the name. It's not to say that he wasn't an important man back then. It's just saying that in this day and age, it's not as important, I don't think.
Wait a second. Here was more. Filmmaker Ame Horowitz. So I'm not saying he wasn't important, but wait a second. This is George Washington.
Back in the day.
Yeah, he might have been important back then. Not important now?
You know, sometimes when I come up with these concepts, I'm sitting in a cave and I'm kind of come up with an idea to go out there. And when I came up with this one, I thought to myself, there's no way. There's no way they're going to go for it. There's no way they're going to want to agree to change the name of the university of our first president, the man who made sure this stayed a republic and did not become a kingship, which was offered to him. There's no way they're going to do it. but I guess the depths of their vapidness knows
All right,
no bounds.
so here's the petition to change that nickname. I want to read that to you. It says, the use of colonials, no matter how innocent the intention, is received as extremely offensive by not only affiliates of the university, but the nation and world at large. The historically negatively charged figure of colonials has too deep a connection to colonialization and glorifies the act of systemic oppression. So you know what? Let's just call it hippo.
Yeah, although ask the people who've been mauled and killed by hippos whether or not that name is an offense.
It's true.
They'd be offended.
It's true. But what does this tell you about the nature of the left today? I mean, is it too far to say that the left is over America? You know, we're not. America's just yesterday.
Oh, no, there's no question about it. Listen, first of all, they're over nation states in general, and they're definitely over the United States. I mean, if you ask leftists a list of who the worst and most oppressive countries in the world are, the United States will always top that list. First of all, they're into historical revisionism. Let's start with that. And this is an example of historical revisionism. Second of all, the truth is it's our fault. The professors, their parents, they've never taught them a fidelity to our basic constructs as a country, not to our documents and certainly not to our founding fathers. So if they don't have that relevance to them because it hasn't been taught to them, they've been taught this garbage by their professors, this is the end result of what you're going to get.
Did you find a balance at all on campus? Because you actually went there on the ground and got a sense of how students are feeling in general about this. Did most of them feel this way, or were there others that were appalled?
75-25. 75% wanted to change the name.
Wow.
And 25 did not. I was shocked. I was shocked, absolutely shocked. But in one sense, I was shocked. Another sense, listen, the president, when he was talking about the slippery slope of starting with taking out the statue of the Confederate generals, that there's a slippery slope. People laughed at him like he was an idiot. Well, guess what? This is the bottom of the slope. We just hit our head at the bottom of the slope because this is what